Hi, hello, namaste. Hope all of you are doing good. Coming to UPSC exam, it is said to be the most toughest exam to crack, the mother of all exams. But still, every year 800 students do clear this exam, right? So have you ever asked yourself what it takes to be in the UPSC finalist, and that too with a very good rank, say in top 100? Is it first of all possible to crack the exam in the very first attempt? If so, what was the journey? What was the strategy, or what should be the approach? If these are the questions, then listen to this video keenly and patiently, because I will be giving you a very practical approach, valuable inputs that will help you in cracking this exam in your first attempt, provided that you follow the instructions in letter and spirit. See, being a fresher or a beginner, what I would personally feel is you need to understand the four questions, that is what to read, what not to read, and if you pick up an article, to what depth to read, right, and how to read. So these are the four most important questions that you need to be pondering about, and that's what I'll be discussing in this video. So I won't be unlike other videos which you would have watched, where they would be telling you about this pattern of the exam, all that, and the sources. Here I'll be discussing about the most important questions that will set a very strong foundation in your preparation, and that will help you in cracking this exam in your first attempt itself. Yes, of course, you can crack this exam in your very first attempt, and we do have our own students, our own ILP students like Soumya Pandey, rank 4, Neha Jain, rank 14, and this year Kanish Kataria, rank 1, who got rank 1 even without coaching. So all this should give you more confidence that you can do it with or without coaching. Before that, before getting to the agenda of the day, I would like to congratulate each one of you who have taken this bold decision of attempting UPSC exam. So that in itself is a very commendable job, because I know students come from various backgrounds, right? There are students who come from the privileged class, who have a good schooling, education, economically they are sound, but still they want to give back something to the society. This forms at least 10 to 15% of the students who are giving the exam. But the majority of the students, that is 80% of the students, are fighting their own battles. Coming from an humble background, they want to make it big. Some have economic insecurities, family insecurities. Some would have rejected the job offers for this exam. Some would have left their job, and I do fall under this category, because even I had to quit my job to pursue UPSC. So I do understand the feeling and the decision itself, because that in itself is a very commendable job to do so. Not everybody has that confidence or that risk-taking ability, right? So first of all, congratulations for that. So before getting into this practical approach, or the basic prerequisites required to clear this exam, there's a word of caution here, because once you enter or get into the preparation phase, you'll find people who would misdirect you or misguide you. It is not that they're doing it purposefully, but they themselves wouldn't have understood the exam properly. This happened with me as well. When I started my preparation, I went to a senior of mine to ask how to start preparing for UPSC, what are the challenges, difficulties involved. So he told me that everything under the sun you should read and understand to clear this exam. That itself, I was taken aback. Then he went on to say, in the tube lights there'll be a number written. So he went on to say that you need to know what is the number written in the tube light. So to that extent, you basically can ask you questions. And I was like, I went back home, and I took at least 4-5 days, because I had already left my job, and now talking to my friend made my case even more worst. And I was thinking, like, am I the right person, or am I heading in the right direction? Then I did a little bit of research myself, and then I understood what is UPSC, because just like any other competitive exam, UPSC is also an exam with a prescribed syllabus. There's nothing like outside the syllabus that comes into the exam, right? It is just that you wouldn't have understood what is the demand or the expectation of UPSC. Once you understand that, you feel that everything that comes in the paper is in line with the syllabus of UPSC. Of course, there'll be one or two bounces both in prelims and mains, but majority of it, 99% of it, is in line with the UPSC syllabus itself. Hope the students who are watching this video would have a fair idea on the pattern of the exam. The UPSC exam is divided into prelims, mains, and interview. Prelims, where you have two papers, general studies and CSAT, both worth 200 marks, whereas CSAT is a qualifying paper. Mains, you have 7 papers worth 250 marks, 4 GS papers, 1 essay paper, and 2 optional papers, right? All in all, it makes up to 1750, and interview 225 marks. So total marks would be that you would be giving this exam is for 2025 marks, right? And if you have to get a good rank, you need to score anywhere above 900 to 950, right, in mains. My focus, as I said before, would be on knowing the how part, what part, and what not to read part. For this, you need to start asking the right questions, or even the basic questions, because these are the questions that will lead you to the right direction, and these are the questions that will actually help you in achieving your goal. The first and foremost question is, why have you taken up this exam? There should be a very strong reason. The reason should come from heart. There should be a very strong reason justifying why you have taken up this exam. If the reason is strong, then move on to the next question. That is, there are so many people. I mean, there are so many people appearing for this exam, and almost everybody, like say suppose 5 lakh people appear for this exam, from the topper to the person who is not clearing the exam would be referring the same sources, right? Be it Lakshmikant for polity, or Spectrum or Bipin Chandra for modern history. It is one and the same. But still, why that only 700 people clear this exam out of 5 lakh people who are giving this exam, right? This should be the next question that you should think over it, right? And the question that I've told in the earlier part of my video, what to read, how to read, to what depth to read, right? The answer for to all this question is, you need to understand the demand of the exam that you're getting into, the process of the exam. So once you understand this, all your above questions, right, will stand answered, because UPSC is going to be a very long journey. There'll be a lot of ups and downs in the journey. There'll be days where you'll feel like, what am I doing in my life, when my friends are earning lakhs together, friends are getting married, buying a plot of land, all that. So these are the parallel thoughts that will keep coming in your mind. There'll be days where you feel like not studying at all. There'll be days where nothing is going according to your plan. You'll be frustrated, saturated with studies, right? And there will be times where you will not be able to attend your close friend's marriage, birthday parties, get together, all that. So you need to even sacrifice certain things, right? And most importantly, your prime age, right? Especially from 20 to 35 is said to be the most prime age of any human being, for that matter, the most productive age. And you will be dedicating 2 years, right, of your prime age year, 1 year before the exam, and the exam itself is a year-long process. So all in all, 2 years or close to more than 600 days. So this is what you will be dedicating. So understand the gravity of the situation. Don't take it lightly. Take it sincerely. And the exam is going to be unpredictable, right? Every year UPSC has a knack of breaking its pattern, right? And certain options will be scaled up, certain options will be scaled down. So all these things will keep happening, but you need to be prepared for it, and you need to keep moving forward with a positive frame of mind. As I said, the journey is going to be it's going to be unpredictable, long journey, ups and downs. A lot of hardships can be faced, right? So sometimes you feel nothing is going in your direction, but these are the times where the first question that I told you, why, the reason behind which you have taken UPSC, that is the one that will drive you throughout this journey. So that is the reason I said it should come from your heart, because anything that is external will be that you will feel motivated only for a few days, right? And when I say from the heart, it can be anything that is close to your heart, but you should be sincere towards it. It can be fulfilling your own dream, fulfilling your parents' dream, right? Or for a noble cause that you want to serve the society, serve the people, make an impact in the lives of the people, right? And there's a friend of mine who cracked this exam. I cannot be taking his name, but he cracked this exam just for his girlfriend. So he was so sincere in his love that he showed the same sincerity towards this exam, and he was able to do it. So what I'm trying to say is the reason can be anything. It is your own personal choice, but it should come from your heart. Once it comes from your heart, obviously you will be sincere towards it. And once you're sincere towards it, and it becomes becomes obviously, you will be putting all your efforts, your 100% efforts, and every time you feel demotivated, this reason should pop up and should tell you you are fighting for this cause, you are preparing for this cause, and you should not let your parents down or your own dreams down, right? So that is the essence of why, the reason behind which you have taken up this exam. But of course, you'll get external motivation, like say you will watching my videos or any toppers videos, right? But the longer motivating factor would be your internal drive. So do remember that it's so important in your preparation phase. The other thing that I want to stress here is even an average student, right, can clear this exam. I myself have seen so many students of mine, and even a couple of friends of mine who were able to do it, though they had not. In fact, one of my friend had flunked or failed in 12th standard, and other friend of mine had backlogs in 3rd semester and 4th semester. But these were the ones who went on to clear this exam. So there's nothing like you have to be good in academics throughout your career, right? But the most important thing is you need to understand the process of the exam, the demand of the exam, right? And once you understand this, there are 3 most important things that you need to do on regular basis. That is, consistency is one pillar, second pillar is revision, and third pillar is confidence and self-belief. When I say consistency, it means you need, say you are studying for 8 hours per day, you need to maintain that 8 hours throughout your journey. Unless and until you clear this exam, minimum of 8 hours, you should continue with that preparation. That is called consistency, right? And revision has to happen, and that is one of the most important factors that differentiates a topper from the others. So revision also should be given so much of importance. And the third factor, as I said, the confidence and self-belief is one of the most important factors that you need to keep. That is so important throughout your journey. One is the trust that you'll be able to clear this exam in this attempt, and at the same time the trust on the materials that you're reading. So it works both ways. So these are the 3 most important pillars or the prerequisites that is required for any student to crack this exam. Now coming to the question of how do you understand the demand of the exam, right, or expectation of UPSC. It is through UPSC syllabus and previous year questions, right? These 2 things, the syllabus and previous year questions, is just like a Bible to a Christian, or a Quran to a Muslim, or a Bhagavad Gita to a Hindu, or it can be any sacred book for that matter, right? It is so sacred. That is the reason you find even toppers stressing on this, because this is what will tell you what to read, what not to read, to what depth to read, and how to read. Right? Because even now we get calls on hotline saying that, sir, I have not understood the demand of the exam. Still, I am not able to decipher what is important for prelims, mains, and interview. Though I would have read the same article, but I am not able to answer that in my prelims or mains. Right? So that means you have not gone through the previous year papers properly. At least what I would say is, at least take previous year papers from 2011 till 2019, both prelims and mains question papers. Right? Go through it. Right? In fact, you get publications where the questions are arranged, last 20-25 years questions are arranged topic wise. say all the fundamental rights questions, say in polity, all the fundamental rights questions since 2000, like since last 20-25 years are put at one place. Right? Likewise, you don't have to go through all, at least from 2011 or 10 till 2019. Please do go through it. In fact, mug up the syllabus, mug up the by heart the questions also, because the importance of it you will realize once you start reading. So that is the reason I say, even before getting into the NCERTs, right, you need to go through the previous year questions papers, because only then you'll understand the demand. Or else what will happen is, even if you're reading NCERTs for 2 or 3 times, you'll feel like as if you've read a novel, because the language is also so simple that you wouldn't even have understood what kind of questions can you expect from UPSC. So that is the reason I would say first and foremost thing is to go through the previous year question papers, both prelims and mains. By heart the syllabus, go through the questions as much as possible, so that every time you start reading, in your mind it will start saying, okay, this is the direction that you need to read, this is how the questions were asked, and this is how you need to think. So the thought process becomes very important, and the thought process is directed in the right direction through the previous year question paper and syllabus. So that is how important the previous year question papers and syllabus is. Why am I stressing so much on this is because, for example, you are good in solving CSAT paper, right? That is general studies. I mean, prelims, we have 2 papers, that is general studies 1 and CSAT paper, that is aptitude paper. There's no surety that if you have cleared this CSAT paper, that doesn't mean that you will be able to clear CAT for getting into an MBA course, or SSC or SBI PO exams, bank PO exams, because the level of difficulty of aptitude is different in different exams. It is not the same in all the exams, right? Hope you are getting my point. Likewise, we ask you to read 8th standard NCERTs, right? We ask you to read from 6th or 8th standard NCERTs. So how old a 8th standard kid would be? Right, around 13 years old. And say as a beginner, on an average age, I would take it as 23 years. Say you are 23 years old. So there's a difference of at least 8 to 10 years, right? So there's a difference of this age. That is one thing that you need to understand. So the maturity level of a kid who is reading it in the 8th standard and a youth who is studying for UPSC, right, and who is 23 years old, the maturity level is different, right? This is one. And second thing is, the demand of 8th standard board exam is completely different from the demand of UPSC exam, right? Because for example, let's take Akbar. Say a 8th standard kid is reading Akbar in modern history in 8th standard. So the kind of questions he or she can expect is, who was Akbar's father? What was Akbar's contribution to architecture in India? Right? Who introduced Mansabdari system? Questions like that. But the same thing, if you want to see it in UPSC, if you have analyzed the previous year questions, you will get a clear idea on what kind of questions you can expect in UPSC. So the level of maturity is different here. So you'll get questions like, what was Akbar's role in unification of the country, right? Role of Akbar in secularism, bringing in secularism in the country, right? Or the comparison or the contemporary relevance of Mansabdari system with the present military system that we have, or the hierarchy in bureaucracy that we have. So this is how the questions can come, right? So that is the reason I'm saying every exam has its own structure, own syllabus, own demand. First and foremost thing to crack this exam is try to understand the demand of the exam. Once that is settled, the foundation is built, then it becomes easier for you to read, comprehend, and go to the next stage. Hope you've got my point. Next question that will give you the right direction is, you need to understand the qualities of a bureaucrat, right? Bureaucrat is one who is able to analyze the issue at hand and come out with solution, a solution-oriented person, right? And not only that, he or she should be constitutionally right at all times. You cannot take extreme positions, right? These are some of the qualities of a bureaucrat, and once you know the qualities of a bureaucrat, it becomes very easy to write good answers. Right? That itself will tell you, because the basic understanding is written in your intro. The analysis and issues will be written in your body, and the conclusion, that is way forward, is nothing but the solution that you give out to the problem is written in your conclusion, right? And not only that, because you cannot be saying India is a best country, it is growing very fast, right? These are not, because you need to speak with facts. You cannot be giving these vague statements, right? That is the importance of facts, because a bureaucrat is one who should speak with facts, right? And you cannot be writing Pakistan is an enemy country, it houses terrorists. Instead of that, the usage of words should also be given importance. It is alleged that Pakistan is a home for terrorists. That is a better way of putting things. See, all this you will understand when you read the government reports. For example, why do I say solution oriented? For example, if you take Kaveri issue, the Kaveri issue was between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu government. So if you go anywhere in Karnataka and ask people from Karnataka, they would always blame people from Tamil Nadu, and they'll say they are the ones who started off and we are not getting water. But if you go to Tamil Nadu, you ask them, they would obviously put all the blame to Karnataka, people from Karnataka. This is how it works out. And even if you go to a provisional store guy, small kirana store guy, he will explain you what is the reason behind it. Like, he'll obviously support people from Karnataka, will support Karnataka, and people from Tamil Nadu will be supporting Tamil Nadu. But you as a bureaucrat, you should be solution oriented. Right? That is the difference between a person who is preparing for UPSC and a person who is not preparing for UPSC. Because what you have to do is you need to see what can be the solution. Should the people from Tamil Nadu farmers, should they shift their cropping system from water intensive crops to less water intensive crops, or should we go on building new dams, or should we start using grey water or recycled water in agriculture, right? Or should we think of interlinking of river waters? So this is how you should think. This is how a bureaucrat is. So once you understand the qualities of a bureaucrat, it becomes very easy for you to read an issue, analyze an issue, and put the same in the answers and your answers. So that is the reason the qualities of bureaucrat also become so important in your preparation phase. The other thing that I want to tell you, stress here, is you don't have to be a specialist here. You have to be a generalist who can connect with the everyday problems of the people. Actually, if you're reading the UPSC notification, that itself tells you what is the demand of prelims, mains, and interview. There are three important lines given, which says what is UPSC checking for it. Of course, it says it is checking for a well-read person or well-learned person. Apart from that, a person who has basic understanding of the issues, who has an ability to analyze, and who comes out with his own opinion on conflicting issues. So basic understanding is nothing but prelims. Your ability to analyze is checked in your mains, and your opinions are checked in your interview. So this 3 lines sums up the entire preparation phase. Right? That is the reason I say always go with the basics. Go with the basic understanding. That is what will actually help you in understanding the exam and cracking this exam. Clear? Moving on to the next most important point, that is what should be the strategy, or what should be the planning like. Planning with daily targets. Because see, what I've seen is everybody wants to work hard. Like when we keep interacting with our students, they keep saying, "Sir, I'm ready to do whatever you say, right? And I'm ready to give my 100% here." And everybody who is appearing for this exam will come up with the same intention. Of course, that is the intention, and that is the urge that you should have to clear this exam. But what happens is the hard work is not channelized in the right direction, right? Because you're not able to understand what to read, what not to read, how to read. Once these 3 things are not in the proper place, what will happen is your hard work will be channelized in the wrong direction. That is the reason the strategy becomes important, right? And a proper planning with daily targets become important, because that will keep you on your toes, right? It will make sure that every day you stay focused, because as I said, it's not a short or a small journey. It is going to be a long journey, close to 2 years, right? And you need to sustain it. And in order to bring in discipline in your preparation, you need to have these daily targets and goals. Fine. And also you need to pace your studies. So what do I mean by pace your studies is, it is just like a game of cricket. The best people who would come to our mind is Rahul Dravid in test matches, and the way Dhoni or Kohli plays in one days, right? You need to pace. They know when to hit singles, when to take singles, when to take doubles, when to hit boundaries, when to hit sixes, right? Accordingly, you need to pace your preparation. It is not like the first month itself you spend all your energy, study for 15 hours, 16 hours, right? And exhaust yourself or burn out yourself, right? That is not at all the right strategy. As I said, consistency is very important. And in order to sustain yourself, at least minimum of 8 hours of studies has to be put in. And this 8 hours of study, minimum I'm saying. So this 8 hours of studies should be continued for the next 2 years, right? So that is how you should pace your studies. Because why am I saying this is, it is from my own personal example. We have this program called as ILP Connect. Before used to call it as ILP 3. So there was this girl who had prepared, who had completed her revisions, all the revisions by the month of Jan. At least 8 to 10 times of every book she had covered. And she used to call me and ask me, sir, what should I do next? Because I'm saturated with everything. I really do not know what to do. She had exhausted herself by the month of Jan itself, and the exam was in, I think, May or June. And what happened is I had a lot of confidence on this girl, but the irony was she was not able to clear prelims, even though she had completed her entire syllabus in the month of Jan itself. So that is the reason I'm saying the importance of pacing your preparation, right? Spreading out your preparation. This also becomes very, very important. So a proper planning with daily targets becomes so important, so crucial here, right? So what you can do is, if you're a beginner, you can start off with basic NCERTs. But before that, as I said, go through the syllabus properly, go through previous year question papers properly, right? And start off with NCERTs. What you can do is, you can divide spread your preparation into 3 to 4 months as one phase. You can call it as milestone, different stages of your preparation, different phases of your preparation. So in the first stage, what you can do is, first phase of your preparation, say, for example, you are starting from June 15th. So till October 15th, you should focus on your NCERTs, right? And your optionals. More importantly, your optionals and NCERTs, so that this completes your one cycle. So you don't have to start with answer writing in the first phase itself. That is this 3-4 months. Then in the second phase, you can switch over from NCERTs in general studies to standard books. Like you can switch over to Polity in Lakshmikant, right? Spectrum or Bipin Chandra in history, G.C. Leong in geography. So you can switch over to the standard books. And at the same time, you can start writing answers at this phase, be it general studies or your optionals, right? You can go for the second revision of your optionals in this phase, and the mains part of it. So ideally speaking, by Jan or February, you would have covered this phase. And in the third phase, you will be left with like 2 months, that is March and April. So in March and April, you can read topics that you are not covered in the previous phases. It can be ethics, it can be anything, any of your weak areas, right? And last phase, that is 3 months before the exam, because what I predict is, or what we predict is, since the exams have been postponed, I think it will be most likely in the July end or August first week next year. So considering that, what you can do is, in the last 3 months before prelims, you can dedicate it exclusively for prelims and solve more mocks and spend time on revision. So that is how you should plan. And why do we always stress to read from NCERTs is because the language of NCERTs are very simple, very lucid, and very easy to understand and comprehend, right? So that is how it is. And apart from that, make the planning practical enough. Because see, ideally, you should cover both prelims and mains before prelims exam. But sometimes it might not happen, but at least make sure that you are covering at least 70 to 75% of your syllabus before prelims, like the main syllabus before prelims. At least the overlapping topics, both in prelims and mains. There'll be certain exclusive topics that is in mains, like society, world history, internal security, ethics, right? But make sure at least ethics is done before prelims, so the rest of the mains exclusive can be even done after prelims. And coming to your day-to-day planning, what you need to do is divide your study plan into 2 hours per day, like 2 hour slots. So each slot can be 2 hours, and if you are studying for 5 slots, it means you are studying for 10 hours per day. So you can study for 2 hours, give a break for 10 to 15 minutes, and in this 10 to 15 minutes, what you have to do is, you need to revise or contemplate on what you have read in those 2 hours. That is how the reading should happen. That is how the revision should happen. And also, when you're sleeping in the night, you need to recollect what you've read in that entire night. So revision is not something that you do it after 3 months, 6 months. It should happen after every couple of hours. So one is like every couple of hours you do, in the night also you just try to recollect it, and in the weekend, what you can do is the first 6 days, that is Monday to Saturday, you can try to study as much as possible. Sunday you can take a break. That is Sunday, half a day you can keep it for revision, keep it light, and half a day you can spend time with your family members, right? Or watch a movie of your choice. So that can be done, because the following Monday you need to rejuvenate yourself, right? So because you see, human psychology also, understanding human psychology, human needs also becomes very important, because you cannot be studying continuously for the next 1.5 2 years. You need to take adequate breaks. As I said, Monday to Saturday you can study in full throttle. Sunday you can, half a day you can spend it for revision, and half a day you can spend the time with your friends, family members, or watch, or spend on your hobbies. Fine, is that okay? So now coming to the next most important question: how to read. How to read plays a very important role. Obviously, for that the previous discussions will aid you to, or will help you in understanding the how part of it. I'll give you 2-3 examples which will make things very clear for you. Say for example, biometric ATM is in news. So how do you study biometric ATM from UPSC perspective? So what is biometric ATM? Basic understanding. That is the first and foremost thing. That as a generalist that you need to know. Biometric ATMs use biological data. When I say biological data, it can be iris, it can be fingerprints, it can be face recognition. So it uses biological data to identify the person. So that is the basic understanding of biometric ATM. So why is it in news? The next question is, why is it in news? So it was in news because especially in rural areas, it was very difficult to prevent the fraud happening, because in rural areas people were not aware of how to withdraw money from the ATMs, right? So these were the issues. So that was the reason biometric ATM was introduced in rural areas. And next would be futuristic. Futuristic, what you can say is, it helps in better targeting of beneficiaries for the government. So for example, they want to transfer money in terms of Narega or Jan Dhan Yojana. It becomes easier when biometrics is used. So this can be the future aspect. That is how you can read. If I want to give you another example, so if I have to study omega-3 fatty acids from UPSC perspective, my approach would be the basic understanding of omega-3 fatty acids. So these are nothing but good types of fats. That is my basic understanding. Second thing is the application of it, the uses of it. So this helps in reducing the depression, arthritis, heart disease, right? So this is the uses of omega-3 fatty, uses of consuming omega-3 fatty acids. Then from prelims perspective, you can get which of the following contains omega-3 fatty acids, whether it's fish, walnuts, spinach, right? This is how you should study. Or say there is this Pulwama attack that has happened a couple of years back. That is in news. So how do you study from prelims? If you would have analyzed the previous year paper, you know that geographical locations are asked in the exam. But if you have understood the exam process properly, if it's in India, there are very bleak chances of asking that in the exam. But if the same place is in news in any of the other countries, foreign countries, be it Middle East, be it Africa, then there are more chances of it being asked in the exam, saying places in news and which country it belongs to. Since we are from India and we know every place, such questions won't be asked. So next, coming to mains part of it. So you can get questions on India-Pakistan relationship, or the present border strategies of India, or border issues in India. That is, it comes under internal security. Or you can get questions on the defense strategies of India. Should we change the defense strategies of India? Or coming to interview, they can ask you that if you are the head of the army, what strategies would you have taken, right? So what strategies would you have taken, or whether you would have gone for surgical strike. So this is how the questions can be asked. Hope you understand. Hope you are understanding, right? So this is how you should study from prelims, mains, and interview. And coming to the sources, always try to refer to the government sources, government websites, PIB website, PRS India. Then government committees set up, like can be Sri Krishna Committee or McKinsey report, international reports, right? Indexes, global and under indexes given by World Economic Forum, IMF, World Bank. right? So these are the things that you need to use in your answer writing as well. That will add more authenticity to your answers. So that is how you should read. And coming to how to make notes. See, note making should not happen in your first reading itself. In the first reading, there are something like there are three levels of reading. In the first reading, you should focus on what the author is trying to say. Say you are reading Lakshmikant and you're reading Parliament. You need to see what the Parliament is all about. What are the functions? How does it function? What are the issues? What are the powers given? So try to understand the basic essence of it. What is the author trying to say? Right? In the second reading, then things will be more clear. And in the third, and when you go to the third reading, that is the time where you should start making notes, because that is the time things will be very clear. Or else what will happen is, if you are trying to make notes in your first reading itself, what will happen is it will be another Indian polity by so and so. Instead of Lakshmikant, it will be your name there, because the entire polity book by Lakshmikant in itself is like a notes. And if you try to start making notes in your first reading itself, then you'll feel that every line that you have read becomes important, or every line is important. So avoid making notes in your first reading itself. Right? It can be made in your third reading. Try to use a pencil in your first reading. Try to use a different highlighter in the second and the third reading. So that is when you can start making notes. And also you can take up this syllabus given in the mains. I mean, keyword given in the main syllabus, and have 100 to 250 words on each keyword. It can be like, say, 5 positives on each keyword and 5 negatives on each keyword. That is how notes can be made. I'll be discussing this in detail in my another video. Coming to the last part of it, that is the must-dos. Study for at least minimum 8 hours, right? And make sure that you are consistent in your studies. It should not be like one day you study for 8 hours, the other day you study for 1 hour, 2 hours, the next day you study for again 5 hours. It shouldn't be like that. If you're studying for 8 hours, make sure that for the next 2 years or 1.5 years, you need to study for 8 hours every day. So that is the most important thing. Second thing is, stick to minimum sources, right? Because what happens is, once you go to the market, you get n number of sources for every subject for that matter. So what you have to do is stick to 1 or 2 sources. Make sure that you revise that more number of times. Instead of putting your hand on all the 5 different sources, put your hand on one source and read the same source for 5 times. That is a better approach rather than sticking on to different sources. So this is the second must do. Third is, have a practical planning. Go with a practical planning. Have daily targets, right? And also give adequate time for your sleep, and having food, eating habits and diet. All this should be taken care along with your preparation, because health is also very important, right? It is not like you keep reading and you deteriorate your health, and it might so happen that on the day of the exam you are not keeping well, and all the efforts that you put throughout the years would be in vain. So that is the reason I'm saying health should also be given equal importance. And fourth part is revision. Yeah, as I've stressed more about revision before as well. So do make sure that revision is done, as I've explained in the daily planning part of it. Then do take the tests. Regularly, be it prelims or mains, because as I said, that is one thing that will test whether you are going in the right direction, whether you are heading in the right direction, or what you have read, are you able to apply it. So these are the 5 important must-dos that you need to follow. You can also look at our ILP plan. The daily targets are given, how time is given for revision, so, and how every 10th day you have a test. So even you can follow that as well. And if you're interested, you can do join our integrated learning program, IS Bhaba's flagship program 2021, which we have launched recently, wherein all these things will be taken care, be it your planning, be it your revision time, or be it minimum sources that you need to stick to. You can, if you're interested, you can just go through that initiative as well. It's called Integrated Learning Program 2021, right? Take the feedback from the students, take the feedback from your seniors, and after knowing, you can take an informed call after taking the feedback from your seniors and your friends. Fine. Hope this video has given you the right direction to start off with. Make the best use of it. Post the takeaways in the YouTube section below and do stick to it. Fine. And these days it is said that being yourself itself is called extraordinary. Why do I say that? Is every person is unique, right? Instead of copying or replicating somebody else's strategy or any type of strategy, do watch the videos, but stick to a couple of them and take the best inputs of it and devise your own strategy based on your own strengths and weakness, because what I strongly believe is each person is unique and each person has his own gray areas and strong areas, right? So based on that, you need to devise a strategy. At the same time, if you're finding any difficulties, do post your comments on the comment section below. I'll personally look into it, and I hope that let this be your best and last attempt, so that you come out with flying colors in your first attempt itself. Thank you.